Everybody talks today about how healthy bone broth is, and yet millions of Americans will lose the perfect opportunity to have an excellent bone broth right after Thanksgiving. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3. First of all, you get a stock pot, fill halfway with water, take all the turkey bones left on the carcass, any meat that's left on there, don't discard it, just throw it in the pot. If you've got turkey legs that you didn't eat and they still have meat on them, you could throw those in. Or if you just have the bones left from the turkey legs, you can go ahead and throw those in. I've thrown in the wings, and you can see we're just letting it simmer. And as the bones cook down, they'll start to break apart, and then you will see that you will not have a whole carcass in there, but just part of the carcass. So there's about half the carcass there, and the other half is already down inside the pot, cooking away. And let's see here. I can show you some other parts of the turkey. That's the other part of the carcass. And you can leave some of the skin on because later on, as we progress and we're ready to put this up, you will see that we will take some of the fat off. So this is stage 1 of the perfect healthy bone broth for later this winter, especially when you're trying to fight off those winter colds. The other wonderful thing that you can do with your stock pot is, let's say you had a big vegetable tray during Thanksgiving and people were just eating all the goody stuff and staying away from the healthy things, and you find yourself with a tray of celery sticks and carrot sticks and maybe broccoli and cauliflower, or perhaps you have a half of a leftover onion from making dressing. So the beauty of this is you can just take your leftovers. Got a piece of onion here. I'm just going to throw that whole in the pot. Got carrot stick, throwing that in. And then, you know, you always say, what do you do with a celery stalk and the leaves on the end of a celery? Well, instead of throwing this in the garbage, cutting it off and throwing it away, you save this until you're ready to make your stock bone broth, and you just simply throw the entire stalk, leaves and all, right down inside the pot. There we go. And if they're sticking out for a little bit, no worries, because it won't be long as this cooks down. You'll see this will all get down in here. So literally, you can take any vegetables that you didn't use, or maybe some of the celery ends that you had cut off. You could throw those all in a baggie, keep it in the fridge until you're ready to do your stock. And now we've got that in with the bones, and we are going to just cook this down until this all disappears. Now, one of the things you want to be aware of when you go to do your bone broth is that this is an all-day affair. Now, you don't have to watch it. You don't have to stir it. If you want to come over every once in a while just for a little bit of fun and poke it a little bit and see how it's cooking. As you can see, the celery has now started to break apart. My carrot's still in there. Got the onion, hasn't quite started coming apart yet. But every once in a while I'll come in here and just give it a quick little stir. So just do it on a day when you're going to be home. Maybe a cold, overcast day where you were planning on doing some projects around the house. You can put your bone broth on. Now, if it's right after Thanksgiving, you've been busy, you don't have time to do your bone broth, well, simply take the bones, the carcass, the leftovers, wrap them all in a plastic, put them in a freezer, and then maybe the following weekend you'll be ready to do your bone broth, and you can just take it out of the freezer and begin the project. So just to give you an idea, it's noon here, and I'll show you how we do as we continue cooking, how long this project actually takes. But again, it takes time, but it's not hard, and it's very, very healthy. Here we are. about 52 minutes later, and I just wanted to show you, here is how we are progressing along. The bone is getting cleaner and cleaner, coming apart more and more. And when we put that back down into the broth, you can see that it's pretty much disappearing into a very healthy broth. Just stirring it, and you can see how the little pieces of celery now are disintegrating and cooking right into the rest of the broth. I don't even know where my carrot or onion are. They look like they must be cooking very well and probably more at the bottom of the pot. Okay, it's been a while now. It's 1:37. Let's take another look and see how we're progressing along here. As you can see, it's getting a little lower in a pot, and the bones are a little less visible. So let's get our carcass out and look at that. It's becoming nothing but clean, smooth bone. That means probably another hour, and we will go on to the next part of the process. So our soup's been cooking for quite a while now. I've had it on for another hour, and as you can see, it's way lower than when we first started. So then what I did now was I started scooping up all of the meat that has fallen off the bone and just moving it over to a colander on a sink. And you can see I've got almost an entire colander filled with these meat scraps. Now, if you look in here, you can actually see that there's small pieces of bone that have been cooked completely down. So all of those nutritious supplements are within the broth that you just made. I'm sure back in the day, the old pioneer women probably figured a way to do this and pull all the bones out of it, and then they probably mixed this with noodles and had a whole meal out of the meat that just fell off the carcass. Now, if you have pets at home, if you have patience, you can take the various bones out of this. There's quite a few of them. Or I would highly recommend it to have a meat grinder or a food processor and just grind this completely down to like a ground food, and then you could actually supplement your dog's meals with this type of meat. One word of caution though, if you do have pets, I would recommend putting onion in the broth when you're first beginning, because dogs don't do well with onion. So if you are going to try to save the scraps and grind them down for dog food, don't put garlic or onion in the broth. I think we have finalized our broth as much as necessary. The next step now is going to be to take the remaining bones. Look how clean that bone is. There's literally nothing left on it. So all that nutrition is down inside this bone broth. And we're going to take and just discard this in with the other meat scraps. I'm going to turn this off. Total cook time now has been about 3 hours. Show you a few more of these bones, how clean they've come. See, there you go. There's your bones. Okay, so now here is the plate of all the meat that came out. Now what I'm doing is I'm setting up the empty colander into another pot, and then I will take what's left in the broth pot, and we are going to pour it in here and get all of the leftovers out of the broth, and then we will have the last stage of our broth. Okay, here's what we had left in the pot, and I'm going to take this out now. Let it drain a minute. now we have a pot of just the bone broth. There's, I'm sure, more than a gallon here. And so the final stage of this is we will let it cool. Then we're going to refrigerate it. And after it's refrigerated, we'll be able to remove any fat that comes to the top so that you have a very high nutrition level in your broth, but the fat is removed. This overnight, and I've just gotten it back out now, and I will show you how the fat has just materialized the very top of our bone broth. So now what we're going to do is get a scoop and just gently just run it down here, just like you're picking up lint off of a carpet. And we're just going to scrape this all off, and then I will show you what good bone broth looks like. Okay, now I have scraped the fat off the top of the broth, and what I'm going to be doing with this is putting it into individual containers, whatever your preference is, 1 cup containers or 2 cup containers, and then freeze it. And when you're ready for your bone broth, you simply take it out, let it thaw in the fridge, heat it up on the stove, or obviously you can microwave it. But let me tell you the difference between this homemade bone broth and what you buy in the store. Look at this. This is a gel. This is the sign of an extremely robust and healthy broth. Yes, this will, as you cook it, it will just liquefy. But the fact that it's the consistency of Jell-O, as you can see I'm shaking it, it's the consistency of Jell-O. And that is the sign of a very good, strong, healthy bone broth. I hope you'll try it. Enjoy. Thank you.